Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for welcoming me here. So, the Tin House, it's in a typical London context. Does this have a... Yes. So here's a high street, one of the big roads which go out of London. And then this is all boring terraced houses. And then I think from a previous age, this piece of land was left. And I bought that at auction a few years ago. Topographically, it was raised, as I found out, as I sort of got to familiarize myself with the land. We bought it with the planning permission to build a really boring bungalow in the middle, which would have left really useless land around the perimeter. And that bungalow would have included a basement just to get extra square meters. And the first thing we did is we broke that brief down into its constituent parts, decided the number of main rooms we wanted, and put them into individual volumes and pushed them out as far as we could so that we could then get a courtyard space in the middle. And then also we created a second little building over the gateway. And the issue was, and actually if I just go back again, you see where the walls double up, you have a lot of space. And I realized that we should try and make use of that space. And the inspiration came from this Scottish castle where the walls are full of all these sort of secondary spaces which serve the main space. And we integrated such small spaces, staircase here, a bathroom there, cupboard there, and that sort of gave us the floor plan we were seeking. The other thing we wanted to sort out was a source of light. You must imagine the courtyard is quite small, and you're sort of looking at each other from 5 meters apart, and then you're overlooked from all sides. So the inspiration for that came from the Pantheon in Rome with a top light, and then you get this sort of wonderful effects throughout the day, and you can always tell what the time of the day is, and that sort of thing. So the finished project ended up looking like this. These are 6 pavilions arranged around a courtyard. We put a pool of water, sort of inspired by the Alhambra, and we were able to step up a little bit on this side because those were blank firewalls, whereas we had to keep a low volume on this side because these people had back gardens and they had sort of established rights to light. So one of the things is we dug down a little bit, which actually took us back to the original topography, so that here you can see the effect on those neighbors is minimized. On this side, as I said, it was a blank wall, so we could step up. The entrance is via this brick gateway. The street is full of brick houses, and I sort of felt we needed to sort of do context, and they said we want brick, and I sort of I'll give you brick. So that's and you enter into a tiny little, I don't know whether the image is good enough, tiny little door, this sort of compression and release sort of thing that Frank Lloyd Wright was always after. And then you come down a cobbled mews, and this is how you arrive at the house. And it's clad in a Swedish steel metal. The idea was that I wanted roofs and walls all to be of one material so that it would read as a sort of giant sculpture. And I wanted it to be quite sharp in its geometry, so you would do without rainwater gutters and stuff like that, because these are really small volumes. And the other thing I wanted is for the windows to just read as these sort of cutouts, like holes in the cheese. So we developed a special glazing system where we bonded glass, which is back painted around the frame, onto wooden timber frames, so that they just read as holes in the wall. And seen from an adjacent roof, this is how the ensemble works. You sort of come into the courtyard here, the pool of water is there, and it's a very serene place. Let's just go through the volumes. This is the bedroom, entrance hall, living room, kitchen, dining, 2 bedrooms, and then this is sort of like a granny flat. And internally, this is the big kitchen dining room, which we clad with this Valchromat. It's an MDF which is colored through and through, and you can do wonderful things with it, like you can router out handles and stuff like that. And then that came from Portugal, so then we went full hog and got some Portuguese tiles as well. What you can also see on this picture is those beautiful light effects which I was after. Sometimes in the early parts of the day, the sun hits the water, and then you get a sort of rectangular of rippling light on the ceiling. It's a very calm and serene place. In fact, one of the things about the place is that you forget you're in London. You know, once you're through that enormous gate, boof, and then it's just quiet. And it's something I'm intrigued about in architecture. Anyway, I include these images of James Turrell and Pantheon just for the inspiration. This is the bedroom. That particular bedroom is in the Granny Annex. So here is the complete plan. The Granny Annex was sort of also a garage, but I've never put a car in. So living dining room, living room. Then this is meant to be the entrance hall where you can hang up your wardrobe, go to the toilet. This is my bedroom, my wife and I, and then so you go round. I did this thing of things always line up, so you can see the fireplace there. And then when you're on that point, you can see the sofa with the mirrored units above it. And so you always get led on to the next thing. This part of the house goes up half a floor and down half a floor. That's that part there. And then you have this wonderful view across the water. This is become my wife's office, and she sits there. And my daughter has the bedroom above. And then the chimney had to actually be higher than the adjacent roof so that the smoke doesn't blow into other people's windows. So the whole thing becomes like a little mini village, like a sort of Mediterranean village. Now, it also has it is incredibly well insulated. You can see here is almost 300 millimeters of insulation. On the outside, a ventilated facade clad in the Swedish steel. The Swedish steel has very good environmental criteria as well. I believe it's the first steel company that wants to become carbon neutral. And for one of the aspects of that is that they're using, as the solvent of their paint, they're using rapeseed oil. But the other aspect I wanted to discuss with this slide here is how the pool actually contributes towards the cooling of the house. These top lights are actually operable, and when you open them up, the warm air escapes, and then the condensation cooling effect and the sort of displacement sort of ensures that cold air comes in. So it's a very pleasant house to live in, actually. Here's a picture of a Swedish rapeseed field. It's got the nice stripiness of the house as well. This is what I was describing earlier. This is the view my wife enjoys and the cat. You're sort of level with the pool. Some more internal shots. This is the fireplace, and this is looking back from the living room to the bedroom. The bedrooms have these sort of inbuilt pieces of furniture so that the beds are always right underneath the oculus, as it were. And when you do a project like this, you sort of realize it's something that you don't do all the time, and you want to sort of put it into its context, and you start thinking about the origins. A German journalist wrote about my project that as you arrive, you want to sort of know where the chief lives. It's sort of got this primeval quality. I did a project in Africa a few years ago, and this was sort of inspirational. And another project that was very inspirational, I have huge respect for Lou Kahn. Some of you may be familiar with this project, which also has this sort of thing of the served spaces, where something which is the structure is also the subservient space. And then, of course, the little pyramidal roofs with a roof light on top. And then this project, some of you may be familiar with it, is a Hugh Casson in London. Unfortunately, the elephants are no longer there because it was deemed to be cruel to the animals, and they moved out of London. But you come in here, and then you would have a view to all these different, elephants and rhinoceros and whatever. And the whole building somehow conveyed, something of the character of those animals. And then it's got these beautiful top light, I don't know what you call them, but yeah, beautiful they are anyway. And what else? Merda artista. I suppose something, the artepovara, the idea of just stripping back everything and letting the things speak for themselves. That's something which was in the back of my head. Some more images. This sort of, it's like a campanile overlooking this little city square. Indeed. Some of you may be familiar with this film. It struck me, well, on completion suddenly, the admiration and Stirly Cracklight's frustrated pursuit. I got there. And then somebody's put together this little video, and I'll just shut up, and it's meant to convey the spirit of the place. Thank you very much. Thank you.